From USAID Ethiopia, this is the Values and Action Podcast, a podcast on leadership, collaboration, and culture. In every episode, we dive deep into one of our values: lead, engage, grow together, and connect it to what we do.
Welcome to the Values and Action Podcast. My name's Scott Hocklander. I'm the Mission Director to USAID Ethiopia and USAID Djibouti. While I was able to share my thoughts on the Mission Values Framework in our first episode released 1 month ago, I am thrilled to sit in the host chair today and during upcoming episodes. So what this is all about is talking about our values framework: lead, engage, grow together. And this is something I'm really excited about. In particular, what I'm excited about is to hear different perspectives on the framework and really hear how different officers in our mission, how they articulate it and how they see and apply it to their everyday. Today, I'm sitting here with Eleanor TanPiengco, Deputy Mission Director to USAID Ethiopia and USAID Djibouti. Eleanor, welcome to today's podcast. You'll be sharing your thoughts on one particular value and associated behaviors, which you consider your so-called superpower. But before we go there, we'd like to hear from you. And everyone asks me, who are you?
Thank you, Scott. I am, as you said, the Deputy Mission Director in USAID Ethiopia. I'm a first-time Deputy Mission Director. I come from the contracting backstop. One of the reasons why I applied for one of these senior leadership jobs is because I really care about creating a very good culture at a mission, and being in a position like this allows me to have that kind of influence. And so when I had to articulate what my leadership philosophy is, I really took some time and really did some soul searching. And what I came up with is I really want to create an inclusive learning environment where people can thrive.
Awesome. For today's episode, you have already shared with me that your what we call superpower is to be found under the lead value engage. Care for and invest in my colleagues and partners with grace in order to help them reach their potential. So what I'd like to know, why do you consider this particular behavior as your superpower, and how do you practice it?
I consider it my superpower because I think it came to me both accidentally and intentionally, if that makes sense. So early in my career, someone had come up to me and said, Eleanor, you should really focus on mentoring. You're really good at it. And I didn't realize that. And I really appreciated that feedback. And as I've moved up in the agency, I really understood that it's something that is important for the agency to achieve its objectives. I think it's very critical for change management, because when we are asking our staff to do more, to think creatively, we also have to support them and provide them the tools to be successful. And so in order to do that, you have to be able to care about what their needs are. You need to understand that there needs to be space to innovate and make mistakes and to learn from that. And so all of this is creating that safe environment and building trust. And again, investing in your colleagues.
That's a fantastic answer. And from that, I can clearly tell that this is not something that you've just thought about and applied to this mission. Could you maybe talk a little bit about how practicing this value has helped you over the course of your career?
Sure. I've been in situations in this agency where just unexpected things happen. And when I was in RSC Budapest, I had just gone to post, and soon thereafter, we were told that we were going to be closing that mission. And it started when I first arrived. It started with 6 COs. I ended up to be the only CO responsible for closing it down and transferring responsibilities to Kosovo.
One of the hardest jobs we have.
Yeah, it was really difficult. It was really difficult as a management challenge. And at the same time, it wasn't a mission that was graduating. So we still had all the responsibilities to support all the client missions. And so what I really needed to do was really leverage the talent I had. We had to like break all the kind of stovepiping that happens in offices where you're in charge of this portfolio, you're in charge of that portfolio, and people really needed to work together. But at the same time, we also needed to care for the staff who eventually were going to lose their jobs, right?
Yeah.
Because they were going to be closing.
That's right.
And how do you develop a really like thoughtful training plan that is not conventional for the agency, because we want people to land on their feet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I learned there was that, you have to care about the whole person.
Yep.
And I think that was one of the hardest management jobs I've had, but I think it really taught me a lot about how trust building is really important,
Mm-hmm.
how easy it is for rumors to spread, and you have to nip them in the bud early. And people need to trust that despite the circumstances that you have no control over, that you really want them to be successful as they move on, whether it's in their career, whether it's from the agency, or whether it's in the agency, that you also have hopes that through your commitment to them, they're committed to you in order to still continue and work towards the development objectives that still stand.
Yeah, that's a great example. Clearly, you've understood and learned how to practice that yourself. Now that you're in the Deputy Mission Director position, I think you have a lot to also give and to teach. What are the specific things team members can do to care for and invest in their team members?
That's a good question, Scott. I think, I personally think foundationally, you have to be someone who wants to build trust with your colleagues, with your direct reports. That means that you need to be able to have real honest conversations with them. You need to listen to what their needs are and where they want to go to be successful. You need to articulate what your expectations are in a way that's clear so that they know what those expectations are. And also, how can you help them? So I would say listen, observe, and then provide guidance or the support or the tools they need to succeed. And at the same time, when people make mistakes, you learn from them. They're learning opportunities, but everyone has to be equally committed. So what I would say to team leaders is that it's not sufficient to just delegate, right? You need to be able to understand the capacity of your team,
right,
and then help them if they need to build capacity, provide them with the tools. And if they already have the capacity, how are you going to let them shine?
Yeah.
How are you going to give them opportunities to showcase their skills?
Mm-hmm. That's great advice. Awesome. I think one of the things that I'm hearing that I really appreciate is how you think about and how you apply the superpower to missions that are in different places of implementation where they're at. So why do you think practicing this value is important to our mission, to this mission's work going forward?
I think it's important because, as we know, Ethiopia is a challenging operating context. And so when we say we want to make a meaningful impact in development, we're always talking about how do we think differently? How do we recognize and embrace the operating environment and really think about how to do development in a way that finds opportunities that are not always obvious. And that requires people to always be on alert of where opportunities may exist, leverage partnerships that they see can help us advance our objectives. But all of this is very demanding on a person. So if we're not really caring, if people think I'm just a tool for your own professional advancement or that, then I don't think that you're going to get that kind of esprit de corps. You're not going to get that innovative thinking or the dedication it takes to overcome a lot of the development challenges that exist in Ethiopia. And when we talk about safe space, for me, again, it's like the whole of person. People need to feel like they want to come to work because they feel supported personally, that they feel supported professionally, and that from whatever position they're at, that their ideas matter, and that we want to draw it out. We encourage that. And it's not always easy, right? There's always a tentativeness. If you're like, I don't know, from my position, can I make this recommendation at this meeting?
Yeah.
And so that's where the safe space comes in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. You've done such a good job that, frankly, I have a bonus question for you. And the bonus question is this, because a lot of the discussion has been about like the mission and internally, but who we consider our partners, it's not just like in the building. It's also the other people we work with, including like our implementing partners. So when thinking about the superpower, which is caring about the people around us, how do you think about that in terms of like our relationships outside the building, including like our implementing partners, for example?
Yeah, of course. All our relationships matter, right? We wouldn't have them if they didn't matter.
Yep.
And for implementing partners particularly, of course, they're close to my heart as a former contracting officer,
Yep.
right?
I knew you'd bring that up.
And again, we call them implementing partners. I don't know if DoD calls them implementing partners, right?
Maybe not.
They're contractors or whatever, because we do have that special relationship.
Yep.
And we rely on them. And so when we're talking about how conflict affects our programming, we also have to think about how conflict affects our implementing partners.
Yeah.
Not only the people that they're serving, but themselves, and how we can think about, we're in a space where we are reevaluating what should our business practices be in support of working in conflict. And we've had a lot of discussions about the need for psychosocial support.
Yep.
And that is super critical.
Mm-hmm.
We just extend the philosophy of like, people can only give as much as they have. And so when they're depleted, they can't actually do their best jobs either. And
this is a good example too of going from our value set, realizing the importance, and then also making sure that it's part of our CDCS.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yes, because I think, again, recognizing the operating environment we work in, we have information. Like, we know that there's trauma. There's trauma out there.
Yeah, in the building, in our partners, and of course, in the people that we are beneficiaries, the people that we serve.
Yes. And so I really appreciate you and Tim and the collective effort of looking at mental health and psychosocial support in that like full spectrum of where our relationships are and how they affect everyone, because we're all connected.
We're all connected.
Yes.
So just to recap a little bit, today we're talking about our values framework, lead, engage, grow together. Right now, we've been focusing on one particular, and that is engage, care for and invest in my colleagues and partners with grace in order to help them reach their potential. This has been a lot of fun, and I just want to thank you, Eleanor, for being the first person to sit in the seat across from me. I was just there myself on the last one. I can say it's fun on both sides, but the best part of this, and the way I started, is to really hear from everyone. It's nice to start from the top with you, Eleanor, about a very important one that's very obviously close to you, something you've been practicing all your career. So I just want to say thanks a lot for being a guest, and I appreciate it. And I look forward, both of us, showing this in practice in the days ahead.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you for all your support.
Until the next one.
Until the next one.
This podcast was brought to you by the USAID Learning Project. Thanks for tuning in and joining today's conversation as we explore our collective values at USAID Ethiopia. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring what matters most.